what's up? Here is another episode for our standard Dominaria United Tech, and this list was suggested by uh, a list from MTG Melee, and probably also reflected in my source, MTG Goldfish. So we could call this deck as the Zur's Domain. Basically, it composed of the new legendary creature version of Zur the Enchanter, and of course the name himself having domain with getting advantage of this mechanic from Dominaria United. So we check on this list with these creatures first. Again, mentioned as Zur. We'll check this setup. Zur Eternal Schemer is a 3 to cast 1/4 flying. Enchantment creatures you control have Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof, and has an ability that pay 1 colorless and white activate target non-oracle enchantment control. It becomes a creature in addition to its other types and has base power and toughness, each equal to its mana value. So this makes your enchantment spells and basically other relevant components of your deck becoming a threat instantly by just having this ability of the setup. So in a way that wherever you get to untap with Zur with enough mana, you can just basically march up your enchantments and make them into definite attackers that can deal enough damage to kick off opponents. So we can basically refer to it as the best target for this deck. For its ability is Leyline Binding. So for a review again, it is a domain card that costs 1 less for each of the basic land types among lands you control. It has ability of exiling target land permanent and opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. So its CMC basically is 6, making it a 6/6 once Zur is activated, and this is also potential huge attacker in a way when combined with the ability. So along with the Zur in the setup, we have also 4 copies of Spirited Companion. So this is enchantment creature by itself. It is just basically a 2-drop card drawn in the deck, and later on can be brought back by Serra Paragon. So this is probably a very grindy creature that can gain advantage by having this ability that you may play a land from your graveyard or cast a permanent spell with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. The only advantage is that it can only do it once, as when the permanent is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, it will be exiled again and you will gain life in the process. But still, this is very good creature in itself. It only costs 4. It is 3 for body and flying. Also can also chip in enough damage because of the evasion, while you get to set up your other creatures or enchantments back from your graveyard. So its definite targets here is probably on these enchantments in your deck. These examples are Fable Domain Breaker, since this is also 3 to cast. Permanent spell with a permanent card with the Celestos also can do mana fix, and then it also has this ability to gain advantage of this when you gain land life into a card and discard a card. Also, other targets here would be Touch of the Spirit Realm. This is also a 3 to cast per se. It has an option to channel for a blink effect, but its basic ability is just basically to exile up to 1 target artifact creature until Touch of the Spirit Realm leaves the battlefield. So along with it, we'll check also the instance. They have no sorceries in the lineup, but we have this instance to make sure that we can basically control the field. It has 2 copies of Cut Down for aggro with killing creatures with total power toughness 5 or less. We also have Make Disappear as a pseudo counter spell because of the 2 mana casting cost. This is very cheap and basically relevant, especially against mid-range decks with big spells that can make cast between turns 5 and 6 and so on. Also with the Rona's Vortex, so it's also a good bounce spell on summon, but when it's kick, you can basically put that permanent on the bottom and its owner's rebel instead, and also very relevant against those creatures that has abilities that can return or trigger ability when it dies. So instead of them dying, you will just basically put them back to the bottom of their owner's library. So there are 6 instances in total. Along with the enchantments, again we will go back with discussing the utility enchantments in the setup. So again, Brilliant Bindings 4 copies along with Fable Domain Breaker, same scenario of doing mana fix, also ramping up with the 2/2 Gromlin Shaman that produces tokens. At the same time, in the late game having a flip card with Kikijiki's reflection in the setup. So we also have Kami's War. This is given that it is a domain card, it is not unusual to have this card, because if you look at this ability, it is also a removal in itself. It's just given that it is 6 to cast, but you can also return one other target non-permanent to its own hand, then it's one discard a card, and also have it to flip into a 6/6 Okagachi Made Manifest. So also a threat on its own. It's also an enchantment creature, which also benefits from Zur's passive ability of having them to become lifelink. I think this is lifelink. That touch impacts moves, so basically a very good advantage once we get to able to flip this. Now for the setup, we also we have another sweep with the Mythok Massacre as the basic 2 mana in X sweep of this deck. So if ever you get to ways to ramp up to the mid to late game, then you can rely on Mythok Massacre to make sure that the opponent's board will not really good to get advantage on this. So along with this, the deck also added Wandering Emperor as its lone Planeswalker choice because of utility functions as also, wherein you can produce White Samurai tokens as blockers or also attackers in the same setup, and also do some combat tricks with its +1 ability, and also an exile effect with the -2 exile target top creature and getting 2 life in the process. Now for the land setup, since basic build of a domain deck is to have all of the 5 land types of this setup, so we have 27 lands in total, but those that are to make sure that we can satisfy the domain ability is that we can have these tri-lands from Streets of Jacopena with these basic land types, so like, such as this one, Dispersed Garden, 3 copies, along with the Raffine's Tower, 4 copies, Palace Island Swamp. We also have 2 copies of Zetora's Proving Ground for Swamp Mountain Forest, and also Sanders Lounge for Island Swamp Mountain in the setup. So last of the list is Parasite Quarters with 1 copy. So if you're going to check, it has basically utilized all of the 5 tri-lands from Streets of Jacopena, and also followed by from Mana Fix with the Spain lands, Darka Waste, Cable Coilos, some slow lands such as Haunted Ridge. We also have Stormguard Coast, Sandon Pass, and some utility cards in Takinoma, Banonmire, Otawara, Sonic City, and lastly Iganjo, Seat of the Empire. So the core colors in this setup is Esper or from Raffine's Tower, or this tri-land cycle, and this main 3 colors, and sub later on by the rest of the color in the mana colors circle. And lastly, we have also some planes to fix the setup, and swamp to finalize the 27 mana lineup. So overall, this is a good deck to set up, I think, with the good strategy of being a domain deck, and also utilizing some of the previous deck archetypes that I think the Kami War was previously featured also in the 5-color domain style build. And we checked the deck stats, is still CMC 3.18. The color distribution here, as you can see, is basically blue, black, and white with the splash of red and green. And some of the old spells here basically goes with 4 and 6 as the late game progresses, more so with the late game scenario and setup. And these are just the tokens that we're going to use whenever you get to play this deck in TG Online or Magic Arena. So that's about it. This is Zur's domain setup for deck tech in Dominaria United Standard. If you're able to try this one, I will suggest that you can post your comments or your observation as how the deck went against most of the top tier decks in current standard formats metagame, and also how it probably curved out with the colors, given that being 5 mana is purely very difficult in the setup, and how it can gain against the categories of aggro, mid-range, and other control decks. So that's about it. Thank you for checking this video. If you like this, you can check more of my previous standard deck text for Dominaria and also some MTG related content and unboxing and also info for this 13 card game. Thank you for checking this video, and until the next time.